guys, and welcome to the last episode of Kapow for the year. It is our traditional Christmas special. I'm Sonia.
And I'm Al, and we are packed in here at King's Comics today with Ray and Jill.
Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be playing Santa with a sack full of presents handpicked for everyone.
And Al and I will be chatting about our top pick for TV binging over the Yuletide season.
And of course, we'll be checking out a few of the issue 1s that have been released just in time to become stocking stuffers.
As well as a couple of graphic novels for any of you who are feeling a little more generous.
So let's saddle up those reindeer and get going.
Aren't you forgetting something? Mistletoe.
I think that was the phone.
Yeah, I left my shoes in the oven.
What? Huh. I don't know.
Yeah. Very. No.
By the end of Christmas Day, we're all in the same boat, lounging on the couch in our comfy pants with a turkey belly pushing at the waistline.
And that, coincidentally enough, is the perfect time to settle in, ignore your family, and read some comics.
Yes.
We've selected a few issue 1s for that very purpose, none of which have a single thing to do with Christmas.
Nope. First up, we have a rather raunchy take on Victorian horror. Insects, written by Marguerite Bennett with art by Ariella Cristantina, dips into the occult when a pair of star-crossed lovers resort to dark magics to take their revenge on the world in general, and on an abusive husband in particular. So what did you think of Insects, Al?
Well, I'm going to go for a borrow with this one. Look, there's a lot of good stuff about it. Certainly it looks great. There's a lot of great artwork in there. Yeah. It really does wear its heart on its sleeve in terms of what it's going to be about, though. If you look at the title, Insects, it's very, very honest about there's going to be some rumpy-pumpy in there. It's a very British way of saying it.
It's very British.
But there's going to be a lot of that in there. And frankly, they could have cut that down by a couple of pages just to actually flesh out the world a bit more.
Sure.
You've got the characters, and they're fairly self-evident in who they are, what they're about. But I don't think you see more than 2 different rooms in this first issue. There's a bedroom and there's a ballroom, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And I felt like they could have... There's references to the outside world, down the marketplace, various stuff like that. We don't see any of it. Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe they're sort of building unreliable narrator. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I felt like they could have established the world a bit more. For all that, though, I did enjoy. There's a kind of a Lovecraftian feel to it, which maybe is partially because of the era that they've set it in, the Victorian period. But that really works well for horror, and I think it does hit a good note as far as that goes.
Yeah, look, I really enjoyed it. I'm actually going to give this one a buy. I agree with you that there could have been a little bit more world building, but the story and the narrative between these 2 women is interesting enough that makes me want to keep reading to find out more about their world. And I gotta say, the artwork in this is absolutely lush. It is so beautifully done.
Nicely done,
and the color palette used throughout is almost iridescent, which kind of works when it all kind of comes out at the end.
Absolutely, but keeps era appropriate as well.
Keeps era appropriate. And there's also, there is a Lovecraftian. It does actually get a little bit gory coming in, we're bringing in that horror.
Quite visceral horror. There's some grim, explodey stuff that happens.
Which I really enjoyed. I like that kind of, the Lovecraftian horror, that Victorian Gothic stuff.
Messed up,
a little bit. But I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to get on to the next issue, so definitely a buy.
In the world of Symmetry, written by Matt Hawkins with art by Raphael Ienco, there is no pain, no hardship, and no conflict. But is there a dark secret lurking beneath this seemingly perfect world? Well, of course there is. Otherwise there wouldn't really be a story. No. Sonia, what did you think of this one?
I'm going to give Symmetry a borrow. Look, I did enjoy it, but I think I kind of fall into that age group that grew up watching sci-fi, dystopian, robots taking over the world kind of films. So it's not a new concept to me. But having said that, it's a very well-constructed comic. It's actually, the story is really interesting. The characters are actually quite well fleshed out. And look, there is something there for people who like that kind of sci-fi, which I do. I'm just a bit... I don't know, maybe I'm sci-fi'd out. The art in this is actually really nice. It's clean, it's crisp, it does have that feeling of utopia that you kind of, that just everything in its place. And everything is calm and perfect.
Everything moves along
just at its
sedately.
Own. Yeah. So look, it's a really solid kind of first issue. And the twist at the end does make you go, well, which is always good. That's what you want.
Absolutely.
But
I made a noise as well.
Yeah. Ultimately for me though, this is a borrow. I think I'm the wrong audience for this one, I think. I've watched way too many sci-fi films where robots take over. Just too many.
No,
What do you
fair
think?
enough. Well, it's a borrow from me as well.
Yeah.
I did feel similar that the familiarity of the content did work against it. It felt like there was a long build-up towards, a big thing changing at the ending, and you were just waiting for that, though.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was, okay. We get it. Everybody's made very comfortable, and there's no hardships, and everybody's happy. Clearly
something is wrong.
There's something horrible. It's Soylent Green. It's something is bad.
Yes.
Something's rotten in the state of symmetry. And yeah, that kind of did work against it. But just because it's in a familiar area doesn't mean it's bad.
No, not at all. It's a really solid issue number one.
It's solid. It's got some interesting concepts in there that it's playing with. I don't know if I agree with you on the characters being particularly well fleshed out.
Oh, okay.
I felt like they were quite shallow. They,
Fair enough.
just they didn't have personalities. Maybe that's by design.
Yeah.
Because there's no creativity. There's no anima to these people. So maybe that's what they were going with. Maybe they'll start developing as people later in the series.
Sure.
But again, that made it harder for me to care.
Fair enough.
The art is good. In particular, there was a 2-page spread where his dream is being played back to him
that
by
is very cool.
his virtual intelligence thing, which was just really lush, really
Yeah, it was.
gorgeous 2-page spread. And that worked really well to keep me moving. And again, as you said, the end section, there is a moment where you sort of go, which I think is...
And we made the same noise.
That exact tone. And I think that was a good way to keep people
Yeah.
moving on. So I think there's going to be something here that will hook people across to the next issue.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, we come to a comic book team-up, which is so obvious, I can't believe no one's done it before. Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are gearing up for a 6-issue crossover written by James Tynion IV with art by Freddie E. Williams II. The Turtles, along with their mentor Splinter and a healthy dollop of the Foot Clan ninjas, have shown up in Gotham City, leaving us with only one question. Can someone bring me a sturdy box to carry all this awesome in? Al, what'd you think?
I was worried going into this one.
Oh.
I will say I was concerned that these two worlds wouldn't mesh
Oh, yep.
that well. Certainly if you go back to the original Eastman Laird stuff, the Turtles are quite dark.
Yeah.
But in more recent days, there's been more of a comedic element, certainly up to the cartoon.
With the Nickelodeon, yep.
Exactly. So I was concerned that either they would try to funny up Batman or they'd try to dark up the Ninja Turtles, and it just... I was completely worried without any justification. It works perfectly.
It does.
It works really, really
Yep.
well. They do manage to bring some comedy into the Gotham world.
They do.
But not by funning up Batman, but by bringing in Alfred with his sarcasm and his irony and his Britishness. And that brings us at least a bit of levity so that it will actually support the Ninja Turtles
The Ninja
coming in
Turtles.
with their
Absolutely.
brand of funniness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was really relieved from the start to see that.
Yeah.
The Turtles also look fantastic.
They do.
The artwork overall is
Yep.
really good in this.
It's solid.
It's really good quality. The Ninja Turtles look kind of scary, but they can also look kind of funny at the same time. It's really done well. Batman is cartoonified a little bit, again, to justify the Turtles, but he's just built like a brick outhouse.
He's a solid man.
He's enormous in this. He's a behemoth.
He is.
But again, they do that so well that it makes them find a place that they can
Yeah,
meet together.
I
Killer
agree.
Croc comes in.
Yep.
He looks grotesque and massive. And you have the Ninja Turtles fighting Killer Croc. You know, how can that end any other way than brilliant?
Yes.
So I was really enjoying that. I think I was a little bit frustrated that they don't meet Batman until right at the last page. I was, oh, come on! But I think that's genius, really, because now I have to read the next one.
Absolutely.
I think there's some concern this might not stretch out over the 6 issues, but if they can keep the momentum they built up in this first one, then they've got no problems. It's absolutely a buy from me.
Yeah. Look, it's a buy from me as well.
Hmm.
I was just really excited about the team up. I'm like, yes!
Not as cynical as me.
Not as cynical as you. I do have one little issue with the art regarding Batman. Yes, he does look like an awesome Batman, except when he doesn't have his cowl on, and then he's a little bit Zoolander.
Oh,
he's a little bit pouty.
The blue steel.
Just a little bit.
He did do the Zushi face.
He did, and it made me kind of giggle, because it's, he's so pouty, and he's got a little curl.
Yeah.
But as soon as he's like Batman, wow,
Oh,
solid.
Yeah,
that is
'cause
a solid Batman.
You can't pout with a cowl on.
No.
That's actually
No.
physiological impossibility. Yeah.
The other thing, I mean, it's not just the art. The story in this is actually really cool. The
Yeah.
reason why the Turtles are in Gotham is really interesting. Why the Foot Clan are there and causing all kind of
And
ninja
again,
havoc.
works really well
It
with the
works
Ninja
well.
Turtles because they were always jumping back and forward through dimensions.
Exactly. And, you know, you've got Master Splinter, you also have Shredder, so
Yeah.
you've got that really nice, solid turtle kind of base. And then you've got Batman, we've got Alfred. I'm interested to see who else from Gotham might kind of pop up in
Sure,
this as well.
sure,
I had so much fun reading this as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's what this comes down to. Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles equal fun. Who thought? But it's brilliant. And there is one panel that just made me laugh my head off. And it's right at the end. And there's Batman being all Batman-y and serious. And he just says, turtles.
Turtles!
Batman saying turtles. Greatest thing in the
You
world.
can hear him.
You
hear him
can.
in that gravelly tone.
Yeah, I
Oh,
loved this. I highly recommend picking this one up. This is good Christmas Day reading.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Definitely one we'd recommend.
Yep.
So that's 3 that you can roll up and jam into a stocking, certainly. But there's a lot of other stuff out there.
Yep.
Hopefully you'll be lucky enough somebody will grab you a handful. So why don't you get on Facebook and Twitter and let us know what goodies you've had come down the chimney. All right then, Merry Christmas, Jill, and thanks for joining us
Thanks,
again.
Al. Merry Christmas.
Today we are going to be talking about a good show to binge watch over Christmas. Might be a good handy thing to avoid the family. Now, there's one that's come out recently, which we found is a good binger. Just recently released on Netflix. Jill, it
Yes,
is
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones, coming on the heels of Daredevil. We have another Netflix original superhero series. Now, a lot of people have binge watched through it already. Some people
Yep.
have only got a little ways in, so we'll try not to be too spoilery. Now, Jill,
Yes.
what are you rating it?
I'm giving it a buy first off.
Okay,
I
cool.
thought the characters were so well developed and the story was really intriguing. There was a lot of drama and I highly recommend it for people to watch.
It is a lot more character driven. If we were to compare it to Daredevil, and I think
Yes.
that's a reasonable thing to do, it seems much more character development rather
Yes.
than not as much action in this one.
No, that's true. I mean, there was some pretty good street fighting and all that sort of stuff, but the base core of this show is the drama.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, because I mean, for anybody who's unfamiliar with it, Jessica Jones is a character who it was in a comic by Brian Michael Bendis called Alias to begin with, a former superhero who goes through a traumatic event and ends up opening a private detective agency.
Yeah.
In this one, we don't really have the superhero culture. It hasn't been built up in the Marvel
Not too much,
universe for on TV. So instead, she's somebody who had superpowers, again, went through the traumatic event and, has now started a detective agency.
Yeah.
It's been lauded widely as being a great metaphor for somebody who's a survivor of rape or abuse.
Yeah, and I
which
think
is
the
interesting.
denial that's associated with that, with like a woman's peers or law enforcement or
Sure.
what have you. So, what Jessica goes through, and with the antagonist, Kilgrave, the Purple Man, it's all really a he said, she said type of feeling to the story, and I think that portrays really well with what a lot of people experience in real life.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it works as a great metaphor. This is a guy who actually can tell you to do anything at all, and you won't be able to resist. He could tell you to shove your own fingers through your eyes, and you would
people
do it
will
without
do it.
hesitating.
Yeah, and there was some pretty gory stuff
yeah,
happening in this
things
show.
on that level
Yeah.
of creepiness do happen. There in the park at that point. I'm
Some
not going to
very
go. There's a
questionable
moment where you just go, "Oh, hey now, that's not right."
No.
So it does go pretty far, and David Tennant really does a brilliant job in
Brilliant
this.
actor.
Oh,
yeah.
he's
I
so
think
good.
Killed it. Yeah.
Oh, he really did. And for anybody who's a big fan of his Doctor Who foray, this will be an excellent opportunity
be
to see him be
eye-opening.
creepy as hell, because
Yes.
he is really disturbing.
But oddly charming as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
He had like this sort of aura about him of maybe this is a person that you do want to get to know, but
Yeah.
at the same time, what he is capable of is quite frightening.
Because even after you've seen some of the horrible stuff
Oh,
that he
yeah.
does and the effects on people of what he's done, sometimes you do still catch yourself going, oh, but you know, you look at his backstory and he's got his reasons, and
I know there was sort
you
of
actually
that,
find yourself
that
mitigating
downtrodden.
it.
Maybe I can feel a bit sorry for him,
Yeah.
but the twistedness is just it shoots all that out the window. I think.
Completely insane. But we've got a lot of great characters, I think, in here.
Yes.
A lot of great bit parts. You've got Luke Cage showing up.
Yes, fantastic.
You've got Jerry Hogarth, who's Carrie Ann Moss plays, and great character, I thought. Her whole side story.
Oh yeah,
really
like,
compelling.
Super progressive for TV. Let's have a lesbian divorce.
Yeah, it's that's something I don't think I've seen on a TV show before.
I couldn't say that.
Which
no.
I think is a positive thing, oddly
Yeah.
enough. I think this is a very female-driven show.
It is. Most of the main characters are the women, and the two guys that I suppose you'd call the main men characters don't really accomplish much in this TV series.
Yeah, they're more moved by events than actually being
That's
protagonists.
True. Yep, the women are controlling a lot of what's happening within the series.
Yeah, which is great, I think,
It
quite
is.
frankly. I mean, I've seen some people who've got on social media and be like, you know what, the men in here, they don't control anything, they just get moved by, they're only the women are making all the decisions. Oh my God, this is what it's like to be a woman. Which I think is kind of genius. And this show does walk that line very well without beating you over the head with it.
And it's not just a show for ladies.
No,
It
God
is
no.
Feminist in the sense of the word that it's very equal opportunity, and I think, the characters definitely hold their own.
And there's great fighting scenes in there. Compared to Daredevil, it's interesting because with Daredevil, you got all the martial arts fighting.
Yeah,
heavily
super
choreographed.
Yeah, this is real brawl, brawl, street fighting stuff.
Yeah, because these are just guys who don't have any fight training. They just happen to have super strength.
Yeah,
And
and
they
boy,
fight-
do they have super
Oh my God,
strength.
they're throwing people through walls, just
Yeah.
stopping cars with your bare hands. Just really cool stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it was cool.
Yeah.
And not over the top sort of stuff.
No.
This felt really grounded, really down to earth. This could be happening.
Yeah, it is a very gritty show, very sort of grimy and disturbing at times, and really believable characters.
Yeah,
which I think are
definitely.
some of its strengths. So for me, I am definitely going to give this a buy.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of this one. I really enjoyed it, which is not to say that it didn't have its flaws. There were
Right.
some areas that it maybe was weaker than it should have
Yeah,
been.
that's true.
What do you think were some of the areas that fell down?
I think maybe the opening directive for the progression of the series was a little bit weak. Some of the acting could have, been improved upon, maybe another take or two. But the story, it was a little slow, but I think it paced well.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people will find it a little bit slow. It is so sort of slow burn character driven, and then
Yeah.
there'll be something crazy happens.
Oh, something will come in at the last 5 minutes of the show, and you're like, "Oh crap, I need to watch."
Yeah,
the
I got to
next
roll straight
episode."
on. Yeah, which is a genius way of getting people
I think
to watch.
that's how
I
you
think.
get someone to go through an entire series in one
Absolutely.
day.
Well, yeah, that well worked on you.
It did.
So that's great. I mean, it's got that through line that drags you along. I think the things that I felt it dropped on were things I can't really talk about because they're
many
spoilery.
spoilers.
So there's a couple of suffice to say maybe that there are a couple of things that aren't explained by the end.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
follow through on it. But only a couple of things, and overall I thought
Not
it was
enough
really solid.
to ruin
No, absolutely
the
not.
solid ending, I think.
Absolutely,
Yeah, there was
absolutely.
a fantastic conclusion. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is going to be a link in the chain to the rest of the Netflix original
That's
superhero
right,
ones.
yep.
We've got, we've got Iron Fist coming up. We've got Luke Cage coming up. So, more Daredevil as well.
And hopefully more Jessica Jones in the Luke Cage show.
Absolutely,
That'd be
yeah.
good
Well,
to-
because they're one of the great romances in Marvel.
They are,
so,
yeah.
so it'd be great to see that relationship built on.
They played so well together in this
It
series
really
too.
did, yeah. It was really believable growth of a relationship.
definitely.
So it's going to be great to see where this goes. I think how it links into others because there are some crossover characters. There's a couple
Yes,
of crossover
they are.
characters so far.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say who, but there will be
Yeah.
some familiar faces from Daredevil showing up. And I think that's a great way to see it's going to move us forward
yeah.
into the rest of
It's
these shows.
growing,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're doing great work over at Netflix. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something we suggest for a bit of binge watching. Why don't you let us know what you like to binge watch, if it's an old favourite or if it's something you've just discovered, and let us know on Facebook or Twitter or on the comments down below.
Hey, Ray.
Hey Sonia, hey everyone.
So you've been Christmas shopping, haven't you?
Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus.
And what's in his bag?
Well, because Jill is such a huge SpongeBob fan,
Yes.
I thought I'd get her this.
Ray, don't be silly.
What? 'Tis the season. From the Emmy Award-winning animated series comes this sleek-looking Batmobile. Not only does it look awesome, but it also features exterior and interior lighting. And it's scaled to fit the dynamic duo from the 6-inch toy line as well.
It's very cool.
Not yours, Jill's.
What about me?
Alright, well, for Al it was a bit of a tough decision. You see, we know he loves Neil Gaiman.
Me
So I
too.
found him this. It's the Overture Sandman statue based on the design by J.H. Williams, sculpted by Dave Cortez. The sculpt and paint work is solid and there's a good likeness to character. I thought it'd be a really nice addition to his collection.
Be a really nice addition to my collection.
Not yours. Al's.
Oh, what about me?
Alright. Well, I thought I'd go a little light this year and choose a bit of a mixed bag for myself.
You.
Yeah. I got these goodies. I grabbed these Princess Bride trading cards and Wayne Casino poker chips. I thought we could all get a little social one fine afternoon. And to keep us company, I also chose this Vader cookie jar to eat nom-noms out of.
Well, that's cool and all, but
What?
what about me?
To be honest, I'm sorry. I didn't. I couldn't find anything for you. You're really hard to shop for.
Well, it's okay, I suppose. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
hey!
This is what I found. It's the Poison Ivy statue by Diamond Select. They've released a line of ladies from the DC animated universe called Femme Fatales. Sculpted by Steve Varner Studios, they're all PVC and approximately 9 inches tall. They're an excellent likeness to the character and the bold colours really make them pop off the shelf.
Thank you, Ray.
My pleasure. And you know what the best part is?
What's that?
I don't have to wrap them.
Well,
Yeah.
that's very true. Well, I'm just
What are you,
gonna
what are you doing?
well, you can't have it till Christmas.
Fine. Sounds fine.
Hey, that's mine!
Yeah, can't have it.
Whenever somebody asks me what they should buy me for Christmas, I always make the same 4 suggestions. Books, books, more books, and why are you still standing here when you should be out buying me books?
Yes, and seeing as how they say it's the thought that counts when giving gifts, we grabbed 2 graphic novels completely at random without even reading the blurbs.
You may have missed the point of that saying.
Oh.
Or you just mean. Either way, let's have a look at what we got. Hashtag Takedown, my evening on a pier with pickup artists and protesters, is the extensive title of a graphic written and drawn by David Blumenstein, a Melbourne-based comic creator who planned to attend a seminar by a much-maligned, self-described pickup artist, Julian Blank, and ended up talking to people on a beach instead. So what did you think of this one, Sonia?
Well, it kind of made me sad because I'm going to give it a berry. And I don't like doing that because it is an Australian comic, and I like, yay!
You want to support the home team?
But, you know, I guess we review things.
Yep.
And unfortunately, this just felt very kind of by the time I got to the end of it.
Yeah.
What is the point of this comic was my first thought, which is not what you want when you finish reading a graphic
Not
novel.
ideally, no.
The idea and the premise I found really interesting. I thought that was actually, I was like, oh yeah, cool, all right, because I'd read a lot about the protest that had happened in St Kilda. I knew a lot about what was going on.
There's a massive social media furore around
thing,
it.
you know. So I was like, yeah, that's a really cool idea. Going into it strong. And then it just it was an article with pictures. That's how it felt. Everyone seemed very reasonable. And, you know, and that's great. There are reasonable people in society.
Yeah.
Reasonable people go to protesters. Yeah, it's great. But it doesn't make a good comic book story. And that's ultimately what, you know, this is what we're looking at as a comic book, as a graphic novel. And there's no tension. There's no argument. There's no crisis point. There's nothing to kind of build up to, resolve, and move about your day, which, yeah, that's kind of storytelling 101 if you're going to tell a story. This just feels like a guy kind of went along and chatted to some people and drew some pictures and published it.
Yeah.
That unfortunately, I don't want to read that, I'm afraid. So yeah, it's a berry. Al?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree. I'm going to go a berry as well.
Sorry.
Which is a shame, as you say. Australian creator, want to get behind them.
Yeah.
And it did start well. I actually thought it started quite well. It's quite an attractive concept.
Yeah.
You know, you've got in close on this lead character, attractive art. I liked the character models were really cool. They're kind of scrappy and interesting. There was some interesting sort of visual stuff that was being played with early on.
Yep.
And then he gets to the beach, and it turns into talking heads.
Yeah.
That's all it was just, you know, two heads of people talking and going on at the mouth.
Yep.
And that was the whole rest of the book, which was quite a disappointment. I thought it was going somewhere more interesting. But as you say, there was no crisis point. It kept being a build-up to nothing.
Yeah.
It kept being, oh, no, something's about to... No, it's not actually going to happen.
No.
Oh, there might actually be... No. And it's mentioned later on that something did happen that was quite big within this context. This was a real-life thing that happened, but they missed that as well.
Yeah.
So it just felt like, why? It felt like less of an article to me and more like a Facebook conversation.
Yep,
It was just, you know, you and your friends having a chat about your views around this concept.
Around the subject, yeah.
And that's, again, you know, that's just not interesting.
Yeah.
It's not interesting until somebody starts throwing out random, unfounded accusations of being a Nazi. That's when it becomes interesting on Facebook, and there was none of that in this. You know, there was nobody going mental.
Yeah.
And look, it's good that they weren't going mental in reality. But not so good for a story.
No.
So it did feel a bit disappointing, and as you say, a bit pointless.
Yeah.
When it came right down to it.
Fair enough. Next, we have another slice of life story, which has been adapted into a game and a feature film. Snow, a graphic novel by Benjamin Rivers, tells the story of Dana, a Toronto native who doesn't deal well with confrontation or change and is about to be saddled with both when she witnesses the aftermath of a violent crime and finds out she's going to lose her job in the same week. So what did you think of this one?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm going to give this one a borrow, though, because it's largely a taste thing for me.
Okay.
I am not a fan of slice of life dramas. I want there to actually be things that happen, and not a lot actually happens in this book.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple of moments where it seems like something's going to happen, and then there's no follow-through. I mean, to some extent there is, but it's mostly how it affects this girl and her emotional well-being. And it felt like how it must feel to be somebody's psychologist, where you just got to listen to all the boring, petty rubbish that they went through this weekend and pretend like you're interested.
Right.
Like I said, it's a taste thing. This is not a bad book. This is not by any means a bad book. It looks really good. I like the art style. The characters come across as believable. That's all good. But it was so tedious. This is not good. I actually fell asleep while I was reading this. I was lying on my couch and I was reading it, and I knew I was maybe not into it when the book hit me in the face. So that's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. I felt like it could have been a bit more riveting than that.
You think?
Possibly.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it's a taste thing. It's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, you know, the big struggle. It says, it's advertised as, you know, how is Dana going to cope when her life gets turned upside down? Her life doesn't get turned upside down. She finds out she's going to lose a job she's been at for a little less than 4 years. That's a stress. That's an inconvenience. That's not finding out that your family are all reptile aliens from space. That's your life getting turned upside down.
Right.
You know, and then you have to fight them. They have laser eyes. No one in this book had laser eyes. I kept waiting for it.
Yes, didn't happen.
And I was disappointed.
Aw.
So once again, it's a taste thing. This is not a bad book. That's why I went for a borrow, even though I found it so mind-numbingly tedious.
Okay.
So what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I'm actually giving this one a buy.
There you go. Yeah.
I am a fan of slice of life stories. I like reading about the minutiae of other people's lives. I don't know, it's just something that I find really fascinating. And look, finding out that the job that you've been in for 4 years is suddenly not going to be there, that does turn your life upside down. And it's not just that. She comes across a guy who's been assaulted and shot and has to deal with that. And
yeah, but then she doesn't hunt down the murderer and then confront him on top of a building site.
She's not Batman.
But that's the problem, maybe.
No.
Forget getting a small business loan. She should be getting a loan to buy a cape and a cowl and some batarangs.
You've missed the point of this book.
Quite possibly.
Yes. No, I really enjoyed this. It's the minutiae of life, and I found it really interesting. I think Dana is actually quite a well-crafted character. She goes from a very scared, timid, insular person who seems to only really have her one friend to talk to apart from the people that she works with. And And she goes through, you know, she does have to help this guy and call 911, which is traumatizing. I don't want to have to do that. That's traumatizing. Yeah. And witnesses a domestic abuse situation, which she, you know, she becomes strong enough to intervene in. Now that in itself is quite a huge character leap for Dana. And then, you know, yes, okay, she does go to get a small business loan. But again, that's a big thing.
And good for you, Dana.
Yes. Just
it sounded really sarcastic, didn't it? I'm sorry.
But underlying all of this is Queen Street in Toronto, which is a real street. And Dana's relationship to this street. This is her street that she lives on, that she feels comfortable in, and it's slowly closing down. Every shop she goes to has a closing down sign or is already closed. It's about kind of this entropy that's happening in this street, and she's just desperately trying to find some stability and normalcy in her life. And, you know, I find that really interesting. I did not fall asleep reading this book. Thank you very much.
I am embarrassed by that.
Well, you should be.
That was poor form.
It was poor form. Yeah. The art style in this, I think, is also really, really great. It's very clean. It's very crisp. It's quite sweet.
They're good character models.
They really are.
It's in the environments and everything are really well realised.
I think so too.
Light and dark is used really well to great effect.
Can't help but feel like you're still making fun of me.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. Look, if you do like slice of life, true slice of life kind of stories like this, I do recommend picking up Snow. I think you'd actually really enjoy it. But, you know, look, that's just two, obviously, very different books that we picked up to take a look at. And you know what? I don't think picking them up without reading the blurb was such a good idea. I think that was a bit of a failure as an experiment. Don't do it. Read a blurb.
Read all the blurbs.
Read the blurbs.
All the blurbs in the store before you buy a book.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's all we have time for this episode and for this year.
But keep an eye on Twitter and Facebook for updates.
And please let us know what awesome presents you found under the tree.
But above all, have a happy holiday season, and until next time,
Bye.